welcome into the program. This is your game plan for retirement with Northwestern Ohio's resource for a common sense approach to planning for our financial investment and retirement future. President and founder of McIntire Retirement Services, Chris McIntire, here with us as always, and off to a fresh start with a new year. Chris, a lot that we are going to be going through this year, a lot of things that we can plan for. And then, of course, there's some unexpected surprises that I'm certain will happen in the year ahead. So going to be kind of the year in preview on this program and talking about some of the things that we need to be doing and thinking about and acting on in order to better our financial future, which I know you do there each and every day at McIntire Retirement Services.
Yeah, we sure do, Peter. And, I think, for us here in Ohio, our diehard Buckeye fans, we've got to, refer to the Maize and Blue as the national champions for a year, and that's a tough pill to swallow.
Indeed. There'll be other things to focus on, but yeah, right now that's top of mind, I think, for everyone. It was an exciting game, and congrats to them for a fantastic season, right, Chris?
Yeah, I don't know if I'll
No.
wear my Ohio State shirt today.
Yeah. Well, down in North Carolina where I am from, that's the same thing as like a Tar Heel congratulating a Blue Devil or an NC State Wolfpacker. So it causes division, certainly, but we can all get along that we want to do what we need to do in order to better our financial future. And ladies and gentlemen, that can start with a simple step of making a phone call to McIntire Retirement Services to get in touch with Chris McIntire and set up a conversation or a time for a sit-down meeting, review, and strategy session. If you would like a complimentary review as well as the opportunity for that complimentary written game plan for retirement, a written plan for your retirement progress, that is what Chris McIntire and the team at McIntire Retirement Services do offer as an extension of the education and information provided here on the radio program. All you need to do to take advantage is pick up the phone and give a call. 800-868-1194 is the number. That's 800-868-1194. 800-868-1194. And Chris, I guess to start, I'll make the comment. I have heard this saying many, many times and always sort of taken issue with it, that it is what it is. And that sort of is like when you give up on the sense that things can be changed or improved. And we may be where we are, like we are where we are, but things can always be improved if we take some proactive steps and measures. We don't have to be relegated to just being satisfied with it is what it is, especially when we look at our retirement forecast.
Yeah, good point there, Peter. And, and I think, an easy example would be people that had lots of money sitting in a savings account. All they had to do was shift to a money market account last year. And you went from basically 0 to 5%, and that's a pretty easy move right there. It's a good example, looking at, CDs, fixed annuity rates, for idle cash was certainly an opportunity last year just to, quadruple your potential earnings.
Yeah, absolutely. And take advantage of these higher interest rates if you are on that side of the financial ledger, if you're a saver or investor, while they're available. Because, Chris, one of the stories that I'm certain we will talk a little bit more about on this program and throughout the year is that in the coming year ahead, we expect to see those interest rates go lower.
Yes. Yeah. And that's kind of been the forecast here is, our rate's going to go lower in, maybe the second half of the year. Talk of that. The other side that I'm reading here is also, there is going to be a record amount of I'm going to call it government bonds, not just the U.S. government, but around the globe, that are going to be issued to finance ever expanding deficits. And that's the interest rate secret we're not real sure about. If you're the sovereign wealth fund of Saudi Arabia, what interest rate are you going to have to be attracted to buy U.S. government debt? Is it going to be 3% or are you going to demand 4%, which could push rates up or keep them at an elevated time for a little bit longer? So, some of that stuff I'm going to tread with a little bit of caution right now.
Yeah, no, interesting, because for the past 2 years, Chris, we've really just been turning to and listening to one source has been the governing body on deciding and dictating the direction of interest rates, being, of course, the Federal Reserve is who we have paid attention to, and their, what was it, 11 successive interest rate hikes through 2022 and 2023 that brought us to where we are. But there is more that goes into that equation, that we've got to be competitive when determining our interest rates, and it's got to be a good return for those that are considering to invest, to buy that government debt, treasury bonds, bills, and notes, right?
Yeah, it's the risk reward scenario. And, you're not seeing a lot of 30-year bonds get sold. A lot more shorter term bonds are getting sold. So 10 years and less. And the United States last year issued more treasury bills, which is basically less than a year than any other time in history, because there was more appetite for that, which drives up short-term rates versus long-term rates. And, we're seeing that play out. I know that's getting kind of geeky to a listener that doesn't necessarily understand how the bond market works, but it's a lot more complicated than what you heard in a 30-second news bite, this afternoon, for example, on the radio.
Well, it's called the inverted yield curve, right, Chris? And perhaps I can bring it down to a level, because I walked into my bank the other week and I looked up on the bulletin board, and I noticed that the rates for 6-month and 12-month CDs were actually higher than what was being offered for 3-year and 5-year CDs. That's not normally the way things are supposed to be, but I think we're more confident in our short-term rates than we are in our long-term rates and stability right now. So I guess the question there, Chris, people are sometimes apprehensive to locking in money for any longer period of time, but does it make sense right now to consider longer lock-in periods to secure higher rates?
Yeah. And, those are going to be some things we're analyzing and looking at, for opportunities for our clients, because, it's funny, I was just reading this morning a lot on the bond market. So, you kind of went into that, and, if they in fact do cut interest rates later on in the year, boy, that could really bode well for the performance of bonds themselves, not just the interest rate, but all of the bonds that are existing out there that got devalued when interest rates went up are going to get, revalued, I guess is the term I'm looking at. We might get some very good potential capital gains off of the value of the existing bonds that you may own or that you may invest in, because they're cutting interest rates, doing the exact opposite. And personally, for full disclosure, I've bought some investment grade corporate bonds as well in the last 30 to 60 days for just our own idle money, not money I want to take a huge amount of risk with, but, after getting beat up so bad, it's like, all right, what, you can buy bonds and actually make money, on bonds appreciating in value, just like stocks do after we've had 11 interest rate increases. They're probably not going to continue to raise them, right? The likelihood, like we're talking about, is they're going to cut those rates. And that's good for dividend stocks. It's good for, anything that produces an income, a bond and whatnot.
Well, everything sort of being cyclical, if you've ever looked at that chart, Chris, of the different asset classes and their performance over time, what is toward the bottom one year ultimately ends up being towards the top shortly thereafter. It seems like it's not consistent. It is very randomized, but there's ebbs and flows to sort of everything. And bonds had a very terrible 2022, not much better 2023. So like they're due, right? I mean, if interest rates do begin to fall, we talked about that inverse relationship, so the value of bonds. And this is something that I think maybe the rank and file 401k saver, the worker with their head down in their job that is doing the right thing, putting money away for their retirement, but they ultimately may not be fully aware of all these forces and factors and implications that you really dig into the details on and pay attention to, so that you can serve and do your job and performance for your clients.
Yes, absolutely, Peter. And, it's part of that fiduciary responsibility that we have for clients, and trying to if they do better, we do better. I hate to copy off of somebody else's commercial there, but we do better when our clients do better.
I could take issue with that commercial though, Chris, because digging in, it tries to create this false sense of difference, that they are somehow different because we only make more money when our clients make more money, where at other places they make money regardless, or something like that language. We do better when our clients do better. They are in fact creating a false sense of distinction there, because they just said the same thing, trying to present it like it is a differentiating factor. That always has kind of bugged me in if they are going to sort of be false right up front in their advertising. I wonder what happens behind the scenes, but I guess that's another story in question. You here are very upfront and direct with the services that you provide, and the fiduciary duty that you have, and the means and the ways that compensation happens, as well as hoping and helping your clients actually become better educated about what's going on with their money so they can make better, more informed decisions.
Sure. Yeah. We're kind of like a quarterback or a teacher sometimes, if you will, and explaining what all the options are, right? There is no perfect investment out there for anybody. So, what's the good thing about a CD? You were talking about that earlier, FDIC insurance, and now a fair rate of return. Okay. The detriment might be, I got to pay tax on the interest on it. Am I better off with something that's tax deferred? Can I compete with an annuity, for example, in a 2 or a 3-year CD by deferring the taxes? Is that in the client's best interest? Are dividend stocks better for a more conservative client than growth stocks? Those types of analogies there to talk about, to go from safety to risk is what I was trying to tie in there, Peter.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to have those conversations and have access to the full spectrum of the financial world, but conversations that will help you narrow down the appropriate choices and options, and then select those that are optimized for your specific situation, that meet and match your risk tolerance, your time horizon, your expectation for returns, and have conversations that are down to earth and on your level about your money and what it's doing for you, pick up the phone and give Chris McIntire a call. He looks forward to hearing from you, helping anyone, and making sure that you've got a resource that assists you in your planning today and moving forward into the future. That's what planning is all about, looking forward and enacting strategies today to help improve your chances of success into the future. That is the main goal there at McIntire Retirement Services, and the job that Chris McIntire does for his clients. So pick up the phone, give a call if you would like a conversation, a complimentary review and evaluation, and a written game plan for retirement. 800-868-1194 is the number to call. That's 800-868-1194. 800-868-1194. And I guess, Chris, we are still close enough to the start of the year here that we could say this is the time of the year where resolutions are made, and we do get the chance for what is a bit of a fresh start as we turn that calendar page. And a lot of people do make it a priority around this time of year to get that plan reviewed or put together. I mean, tax time right around the corner, right? So what better time than now to look at our finances and plan for the year ahead?
Yeah, the great time right now. I think from the tax planning side this year, Peter, in the year 2024, as some of your money is not taxed at all because of the standard deduction. Okay, some of it is taxed in 10% tax bracket, some in the 12, some in the 22, and so on, right? We have a progressive tax system. So the tax brackets now are widening out. So in the year 2024, that 12% tax bracket, the dollar amount that is taxed at 12% has increased significantly over 2023. And I don't need to get into all the numbers here because you get lost in the numbers, but some good Roth IRA conversion opportunities will happen this year as well for folks.
But when they say that tax brackets are going up or are increasing, that is a good thing, right? That does not mean we are paying more taxes. That means more of our dollars will fall into those lower brackets, correct?
Yeah, yep, that's exactly what I meant. Yep, we're not changing tax brackets. The amount of money in the 12% tax bracket has expanded, and that's typically a good thing right? Because the next bracket's 22%. I'd rather pay it at 12 than 22. So, when we do our Roth conversion analogies, when you and I talk on the radio, a lot of times we're focusing on that 12% bracket because we deal with retirees that, their income isn't $200,000 a year. It might be 100,000. Okay. Well, by the time you take out a standard deduction, okay, and then some of their Social Security isn't taxed at all, okay, then all of a sudden they might have another $30,000 that they could pull out of an IRA, convert it to a Roth, and only pay 12% federal income tax, right? We've got state in there that we have to include. And typically we just talk about the federal side of things here, but it's important to mention state income tax as well.
They're not going to forget about those dollars either, are they, Chris?
Never.
Yep. Everybody's got some skin in the game and a handout, so to speak. But it's not what you make, it's what you keep. It's not what you have in those retirement accounts. It's what you get to spend out of them or leave behind, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why looking at today's advantageous, historically low tax rates and brackets now may be a good thing. It may be advantageous to you. If you walk into a store and you see a rack at full price and then the same items on a rack with a sale price, sale tag on it, which one are you going to go toward, right? Well, you may even pick up that item, but still say, heck, it's on sale, but I actually still don't really need it. Guess what? Taxes are a compulsory purchase. We have to pay them. It's pay me now or pay me later. So why not buy it when it's on sale, so to speak, right, Chris?
Correct. Yeah. And, we do some things buy things out of state sometimes, or my wife and I will go down to Florida and, then, you don't have to pay the Florida sales tax when you get it. They ship it home to you. So, in Amazon online purchases, I think obviously you're supposed to report all of that, but let's be realistic,
people might not. People might not.
People might not do that. And I guess, we could probably make an argument that, all right, well, how is that fair to the brick and mortar joint that's paying rent and all of that when somebody goes in the store, they have to pay the sales tax, but instead they go and buy it online and not pay any sales tax. So, is it fair and equitable? Well, we probably make that argument two ways, but nevertheless, we are human beings, we are crafty, and we want to pay the least amount possible for what we do,
Well, Chris, I know there was a lot of kickback and complaining and murmuring and mumbling about banks wanting to know your business when you're depositing or withdrawing what seems like not even a relatively large sum of cash. But I mean, that's part of the reason why behind that, right? Is like if we've got two different landscaping companies, let's call it Steve's Landscaping and Joe's Landscaping, and Steve is claiming every dollar that he makes, but Joe is only claiming what he has to because of credit cards or checks or whatever, but the cash just goes. That is an unfair advantage. But like you said, that seems to be happening on a large scale in the online world, right?
Yeah, exactly. Same analogy there. You get a 30% discount if you pay your buddy in cash for cutting the tree down, versus calling the big corporate entity that doesn't have that capabilities,
Yep. And full disclosure, I don't know Steve or Joe, nor any of their business, but just as an example there, all the different types of things that we talk about week to week on this program, Chris, I think are important food for thought, but you really get down into an individual's specific situation, their goals, their income, their investments, their time horizon, their desires and wishes for what the future is going to look like. I mean, we always need to have a certain number of topics that we talk about and address with our advisor, right? But I think one of maybe the most important is ourselves, and for you in that conversation, yourself and your firm as well, like your general approach to how you are different and what you do with and for your clients to help them achieve the goals that they've discussed.
Sure. I think our niche is, we'd like to help clients with taxes, Roth IRA conversions, qualified charitable distributions. And, it's a lot of things that are administratively heavy, and we kind of pride ourselves on that. And, not to say that, look, everybody's human, things do happen, But, if we change a beneficiary, for example, we actually follow through to make sure that that beneficiary change happened at Charles Schwab, Fidelity, or one of the companies that we utilize. So, and when we make trades, we actually print off documents. Did these trades actually get made? Because we live in a world that is, very electronic and computer based, and a lot of people have good faith, and but sometimes some of that stuff doesn't necessarily, can fall through the cracks. So we try to take those extra steps, and it bogs the system down at times, no question about it, especially at the end of the year when all these things are happening at the same time. All those required minimum distributions, and making sure, look, did so and so take theirs? You're kind of going through your book of business to make sure they're automatic, and or that they've been taken out, because they don't have to be automatic. If you have 3 IRAs, for example, you can take all the distributions out of one of them. So and sometimes we shift back and forth. If the stock market goes down, we don't take the money out of the stock market piece. We might come over and grab it out of the safe money piece, and then the next year we got to look and do that over again. And yeah, that's extra work, but we certainly think that's in the client's best interest to do so.
Chris, in other words, not to put words in your mouth, but to paraphrase here, a large part of your job is babysitting the money and babysitting the companies that are supposed to be doing certain things for your clients with the money, and babysitting the funds and the investments. A lot of oversight and monitoring and maintenance going on.
Yeah, without a doubt. And sometimes the system runs very well, and then all of a sudden, sometimes the system breaks down, and you got to battle through some of the things that happen. Like for us, for example, TD Ameritrade merged with Charles Schwab last year, and man, you want to talk about a lot of things that happened there, and that's just a good example of it. And you and I talked about a little bit of that ahead of hitting the record button for the folks listening today.
Huge size and scope of
Yes.
that kind of move.
Yep.
I mean, you're talking just an unfathomable amount of money when two firms of that size merge, and Chris, that affected what I have to imagine is tens of millions of individual investors and advisors across the country. But you helped your clients make that transition smoothly, and made sure that what happened on one side translated right over to what should be over there on the other side, and made sure that certain items like withdrawals or distributions or deposits and the investments themselves were all intact there. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the kind of help and assistance and service that working with an experienced, qualified financial professional can provide you, in addition to just formulating the plan, examining the variables, making sure that you are in alignment with your goals and your risk tolerance, and maximizing Social Security, minimizing taxes, addressing those potential pitfalls that could be in your way, because we only retire once, and we only have one opportunity to do it right. So we don't want to just learn from our own mistakes in retirement. That's the benefit of working with an advisor such as Chris McIntire. He's seen it over and over and time again, and understands what has led to mistakes in other situations, and what has led to being able to address and avoid some of those pitfalls and obstacles. So if you would like a complimentary review or conversation to get things started, again, just pick up the phone and give a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Chris, I guess retirement at my stage, and maybe even if we're already in retirement for the next stage, it's like we can see the finish line and we know where we want to get to, but it's an obstacle course, right? And there's so many obstacles that are going to be in our way. And if we haven't run that course before, maybe we don't know what some of those obstacles are or the best way to overcome them. You've run the obstacle course many, many times before, I guess is what I'm saying.
Sure. And I've got aging parents that we deal with. So the health considerations that come in later in life, and nursing homes, all those things that we deal with, some of the inevitabilities for folks, that we've gone through, and the experience we generate servicing hundreds of people over the decades that we've been doing this. So, you don't get into this business, most people do because they have a certain degree of intelligence, so they're smart. Wisdom comes with the experience of, I thought I was smart when I was 35 years old. It's like, man, I look at the wisdom I have now, older than 35, in my mid 50s, I'll say, Peter. Yeah,
No, not a day.
yeah,
But some of those obstacles, though, that we may not think about on the first day of retirement or as we're planning for retirement, just how long retirement really might be. Longevity is something that we need to plan specifically for. Sequence risk is another thing that I've heard you talking about, basically addressing how we can plan and prepare for the wild, unpredictable ups and downs of the market volatility. Chris, you help people with employer sponsored plans, with tax strategies, with long-term care to know when and how they can gain or retain more control over their money, to make sure that it's not lazy money sitting around earning less than it should be, how to make sure that we don't outlive our assets, and how to make the most out of Social Security. So many elements go into your process, and really just helping to address some of the common problems with simple solutions, and then the more complex problems with advanced strategies that you have access to.
yeah. And, in the independence, I think that we bring to the table as well. We don't have a dog in the fight where we're running a specific agenda saying, okay, at the end of the day, I got to ram this square peg through a round hole, so to speak. That's not what we do. We can tailor and customize. We have all of the support systems in place from the assets under management. The investment aspect is what we call that, versus the insurance side of our practice as well. Life, long-term care, annuity, lots of support. I'm an infrastructure geek. We've got, Robin, Michelle, Jason, Heidi. Obviously, Heidi's off right now with her some knee replacement surgery, and miss her dearly, and can't wait for her to come back into the office here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thoughts and prayers for Heidi for full recovery, and moving around real soon.
Yep, absolutely. And yep, she's a gem for sure. And she's kind of my right-hand person, and can't give enough credence to her.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chris, I know absent of the crystal ball, we don't have any exact kind of accurate predictions, but what do you expect maybe in the year ahead in 2024, especially for those that might be thinking about retiring in 2024
Yeah.
or at some point in the near future, next year or two?
Yeah, so the bright spots probably for folks retiring right now is, we had a nice run in the market in 2023. Okay? Dividend stocks recovered nicely at the end of 2023. The market recovery broadened out across the economy, not just 8 growth stocks that took off like they did early. We've got better interest rates out there for safe money, if you want to call it that. So creating income's gotten a little bit easier. Annuity payouts got incredibly better with certain companies, so they're competing with one another, and that's always good for the consumer. So some of the bright spots are the investment landscape, the income landscape, is certainly given us more options than what we had in, say, 2019, for example, when rates were so low. The other side of it, there's good and bad, is the geopolitical risk that we've got right now. There's a lot of boiling pots here around the globe, and interrupting trade and whatnot. And then, I don't worry too much about the presidential election.
I was going to say, and of course, the exciting presidential election to come. Yeah.
Yeah. We've got the persecution of former President Trump. It's not prosecution. Let's be honest. They're trying to persecute him. And then we got 2 older white guys running for president. And I think the rest of us most of us want some new blood out there to take a look at. But,
not just in the Oval Office and the presidency.
Correct. Yeah. And in seeing some change, we'd like to see some change with Social Security and Medicare to get those pieces founded. And, I think that's the frustration that, we have a do nothing Congress, because one side says something, the other side takes it and runs with it the exact opposite. You're going to take grandma's money away from her. And that's juvenalistic at best.
And then at the end of the day, they go out all line dancing together or something, whatever
Yeah.
they do, right?
End up at the same bar just down from, on 3rd Street or whatever in Washington, from Font Plaza, let's call it.
Giving
Yeah.
each other high fives. Yeah.
Was the architect there? Yep, obviously. Yep.
Well, when it comes to your financial future, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to take all of this into account. And good enough simply isn't. Just because we are where we are doesn't mean that it is what it is and it always has to be. So plan proactively. Pick up the phone, give Chris McIntire a call, talk with the team at McIntire Retirement Services, learn more about the services that they provide, and have a conversation about what they can do with you and for you. Find out how to really optimize that plan and get that plan. Get the written plan for your financial future, the game plan for retirement. You can do that, no cost, no obligation. Just pick up the phone and give a call now. 800-868-1194. That is 800-868-1194. 800-868-1194. Or skip the phone call, always available online, McIntireRetirementServices.com. McIntireRetirementServices.com. Chris, it is always a pleasure to have you on the program and get to pick your brain. Thank you for being here.
Hey, my pleasure, buddy. Thanks for listening, everybody. Be safe out there. Happy New Year, and all the best to you.
Tune into Chris McIntire's full radio program and visit McIntireRetirementServices.com for many additional valuable resources, including other great episodes of Game Plan for Retirement with Chris McIntire. Be sure to subscribe.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.